So my son Chase is getting married. He and his wonderful fiance Gabby, they have been together for 7 years. And then just last year on a family vacation, we were in Banff in Jasper, Canada for a week in July. He got down on one knee and he finally asked Gabby to marry him. We were so excited, and we knew that this change was going to come in his life and in our family's life. But if I'm honest, change, it's always change, so it's still complicated. So today we're going to talk about what do we do when we expect change, when we see that change coming. We all have these things that come along in our lives and we anticipate knowing that this change is going to happen, that this thing is going to happen. I spoke to a mom this week whose daughter went off to college in September, and I asked her how she was going. She said, it was really tough. This transition between life in college and life at home has been really a difficult one on her daughter. It's come with a lot of emotional response, and so she said her daughter comes home quite frequently on the weekends, and that this transition time has been really, really difficult. When my kids were little, I was divorced from their dad, and so it was about an hour before they go to their dad's house where they started to change. They started to have this transitional time. They didn't know exactly what to do with this space, anticipating that change was going to happen. And then when they came back from their dad's, it took them probably the rest of that evening to be able to kind of settle back into the way that we did things in our house. We called it the switching hours. So, they're in their switching hours times. It just was a time of transition for them to figure out from one house to another, because each of the households functioned differently. And so the kids, they had to learn how to function differently in each of those houses. Or one beloved member of our church community was put on hospice yesterday. And while she and her husband kind of knew and anticipated that was coming, they understood that was in their future. It was still hard to hear those words, that she was going to die soon and that their time together would be limited. We see the top stressors in all of our lives is change. It's change. Death of a loved one, job loss, getting married, getting divorced, having a child, incarceration, buying a home, moving, or navigating an illness. Those are the top stressors that we have in our lives, and it's all around transitions, life transitionings. It's when we're transitioning from one way of life to another. And it's hard on us. Our bodies don't always deal with it really well, because we have to go and we have to learn new routines. We have to work through our emotions all around it. And sometimes we have to just take the time to grieve and mourn the way things were before the change. Maybe grieve and mourn the way things were when your daughter was at home with you rather than when they were going to college. And I'll be honest, as we navigate these big life changes in our life, the truth is that God is in and with us and through among all of it. I love in the book of Ecclesiastes where it says this. It says, there is a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven. There's a time to be born and a time to die. There's a time to plant and a time to uproot. There's a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to heal, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather the stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. There's a time to search and a time to give up, a time to weep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. God acknowledges that there's a time for everything in our lives. And so as you're navigating your life transitions, understand that God is there with you through them, through those life changes where things were one way, but now they're another. That God is with you and God offers God's promise with you in and through everything. So if you're in those transitions, I know that life changes are difficult and they're different, but I want you to stay just for a moment, just to sit there and think about how God was with you in the past and how God promises always to be with you in the future, because God's got you in all of it.